It's time to look forward. The mother who lost her daughter in the plane crash of 2002 reaches out to the person responsible. It's time to look forward. Forgiveness is the invisible door that can open the prison of bitterness, helplessness, reproaches, and fantasies of revenge. Sometimes you don't have the energy to open it. And then this inability to forgive puts you into a cell that you cannot leave, and you are bound to the hurt that you experienced. And there is no window to throw light inside. And where does this, how can this mother reach out and shake hands with the air traffic controller? We don't know how she did it, but she opens a door. She is able to leave these walls of bitterness and move forward. Forgiveness opens a door to the future. But it takes some time and energy to open this door. Sometimes it's a long journey. And the Bible tells us about journeys like this, and I think this is so good about the Bible, that it is completely honest about us and truthful. Also, what happens in families of believers. Also, hurts can happen in families of believers in the Bible and until now. And I want to take you into what happened in the family of Jacob, one of the founding fathers of our faith. He had 12 children, 10 children with the one who was given to him, and 2 with her, with Rachel, whom he loved. And maybe that was the reason that he loved one of those children of Rachel especially. And he bought a fancy dress for Joseph. And also in other respects, he showed that he loved Joseph more than the other brothers. And so the other brothers started to get jealous. And then Joseph made this mistake and told his brothers about his dream, in which his brothers bowed before him. And then they want to get rid of him and want to put him in an old cistern to let him die. Only one brother has a suggestion to deal with this differently and sell Joseph as a slave to Egypt. And thus Joseph becomes a slave in Egypt, but he has an incredible career and becomes one of the main officials of the Pharaoh. And in this position he's able to save his family from a famine. The family moves to Egypt, and they are safe under the protection of Joseph. And Jacob somehow dies in peace about all this. And we think that this story could end here. But then in Genesis, we are told, at the end of Genesis, we are told And we see how old hurts and wrongs are still there after such a long time. When Joseph's brothers saw that their father was dead, they said, "What if Joseph holds a grudge against us and pays us back for all the wrongs we did to him?" So they sent word to Joseph, saying, "Your father left these instructions before he died. This is what you are to say to Joseph: I ask you to forgive your brothers the sins and the wrongs they committed in treating you so badly. Now please forgive the sins of the servants of the God of your father." When their message came to him, Joseph wept. His brothers then came and threw themselves down before him. "We are your slaves," they said. But Joseph said to them, "Don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God? You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good, to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. So then don't be afraid. I will provide for you and your children." And he reassured them and spoke kindly to them. 22 years. 22 years after this terrible hurt, forgiveness is given victory. 22 years, for 22 years, the evil deed had divided the family, and now brothers can become brothers again. It's good to see that God was patient for such a long time. There was no pressure from his side. Forgiveness may be a long journey, a long way to go. Maybe you are concerned with something like that, and you're looking for the door. 22 years are a long time, but please forgive what we did to you. And so in the end, they throw themselves in the dust before him and tell him that he may sell them as slaves to Egypt. Is it time for you to get going and approach someone about something you did to him or her? Is there something that your conscience reminds you of at night? It's never too late for forgiveness. You can decide to take a step today. The way to forgiveness is not an easy one. Not for the person who did the wrong, but also not for the person who is asked forgiveness, like the mother who was approached by the air traffic controller. It's a courageous step by the person who did the wrong to approach the victim. The person who did wrong, he is like in a prison, and maybe his memory replays what he did again and again. And then it's time to approach the person. But maybe you are more on the other side. Maybe you feel a kind of hurt. You feel sold and betrayed like Joseph. And you have inner monologues or fantasies of revenge. And the text tells us that Joseph cries, sheds tears. We don't know why. The renewal of the hurt? Is it the humiliation by his brothers that he relives again? Or is it the fear of slavery that he relives again? Is it the sadness that 22 years were between him and his brothers? Or is he disappointed in his father that he thought that he might take revenge on his brothers? We don't know about his motives, why he shed tears. But for us, it's important to see that in the family of these founding fathers of faith, there were hurts and there was guilt. Forgiveness does not mean that you have to change your emotions. It can take a long time, but it's a process, and which starts with tears. Your emotions are like signals what is happening. And forgiveness does not pass by your emotions, but it goes right through them. The first thing that Joseph tells his brothers is, be not afraid. So forgiveness does not pass by the emotions. And they hear, do not be afraid. And what were the feelings of the air traffic controller when this woman stretched out her hand? Joseph tells his brothers are not afraid. And he says, I will not turn around what God did. You wanted evil, but God turned it around. Forgiveness does not mean simply to forget. It doesn't. It is not possible. Forgiveness does not make things smaller than they were. Joseph does not say it's not so important. He tells it by name, you did evil. And forgiveness can start if the evil is called by name. And that you have to tell the other person where your limits are and where the other person crushed them. Forgiveness does also not mean to have suddenly warm feelings for the wrongdoer. It doesn't mean that. It can develop maybe after years, but it will not happen suddenly. Forgiveness does not mean to have warm feelings for the wrongdoer, but it is a decision to forgive. So is this an exemplary story, this story about Joseph and his brothers? And we should consider that sometimes there are stories that differ a bit. Yes, there was a lot of hurt and evil in this family, but in the end, both parties, Joseph and his brothers, shared the same evaluation of the situation, that it was bad and wrong. But sometimes we have the experience that the wrongdoer don't show any remorse. They don't see that they did anything wrong. And is forgiveness possible in such a case? Some people are able to forgive nevertheless. They find a way from the prison of helplessness, bitterness, and revenge. For some people, it's possible to forgive although the wrongdoer is remorseless. By forgiving, you take a step out of helplessness. And this magnetic power of this wrongdoing loses your grip, but you are able to take a step forward. Also in a second, there is a second aspect which may be different from your story. God changed evil into good in Joseph's story. With hindsight, Joseph was able to see that what happened to him, that God was able to make a second story with him, that God opened a good future for him and his family. But still there was guilt on the side of the brothers, and what the brothers did not become good because of the good effects. God was able to turn something evil into good. So there is no doubt about this. But God granted and God gave the blessing that this family, despite all the wrongdoing, was saved by this. God gave this. Yes, there were hurts in the family of the father of faith, but God can do miracles in our families despite of our wrongdoings. Maybe you are so fixated on your hurt that you are not able to see what God is doing in this. But Joseph is able to see the good that came out of the bad. And yet we have to say that this is not always the case. Not everything that is bad, everything bad that happens is turned into something good. There are some instances of senseless violence, physically, and people experience it as a hard rock thrown into their lives. And nothing good comes of it, and we should not tell them that they should see something good in it. But these people can also pray that God, in His wisdom and His love, can turn things around. Some people feel left by people and by God because of their hurts and their bitterness. This is the first step. Turn to God with your feeling of helplessness, with your anger, and with your thoughts of revenge. Maybe the word from Romans will help you. Do not repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everybody. Do not take revenge, my friends, but leave room for God's wrath, for it is written, "It is mine to avenge. I will repay," says the Lord. So God will avenge. God will act. So we can come to God with our hurts, and we can let go of them, because God says, I will avenge it. To learn forgiveness means to learn to let go, or to leave it to God. Let go. Is it time for you to look forward and to let go of something in the face of God? Wherever you are on this way to forgiveness, you can approach God just the way you are, with your hurts, but also with your own guilt. And we all need this forgiveness, because Jesus teaches us to pray, forgive us our wrongdoings like we forgive our the people who did us wrong. The God of Jacob and Joseph is a God of forgiveness, and we can approach him. And the step towards God is the first step to look forward.